higher. Turn your nose up. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari and Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahansa, Parivadikacharya Ashtottara to Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parivadikacharya Ashtottara to Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. All righty. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we seem to be on text 20, is that right? I don't suppose Tapas is there.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. We are text 20.
All right, text 20. All right. On this 11th day of October 2021 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are finishing up chapter 15 today, entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. I'm on text 20, page 613. 613, most of your books. Iti guyatamam shastram idam uktam mayanagha etad buddha buddhiman syat kritakrityash sabharata iti guyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddha buddhiman syat kritakrityas bharata iti guyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddha buddhiman syat Kutakutjasta Bharata iti guyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddha buddhiman syat. Kutakutjasta Bharata Dhamraj iti guyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddha buddhiman syat. Kutakutjasta Bharata Kunti Bihari iti guyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddha buddhiman syat. Kutakutjasta Bharata Ravi iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddha buddhiman syat. Kutakutjasta Bharata Dimitriga iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha etad buddha buddhiman syat. Kutakutjasta Bharata. Anyone in Zoom land?
Yes, Prabhu, how may I serve you?
You want to chant the verse?
Yes, I want to chant the verse. May I?
Please.
Thank you very much. Iti guhyatamam shastram
Iti guhyatamam shastram
idam uktam maya naga
idamuktam mayanagha
etad buddha buddhiman syat
etad buddha buddhiman syat.
Krityash Bharata.
Kutakutjasta Bharata.
May I chant, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
Please.
Thank you. Iti guya tamam sastram
Iti guhyatamam shastram
idam muktam mayanadha
idamuktam mayanagha
etad buddha buddhimanas
etad buddha buddhiman syat.
mansyat, sorry, Kritakrutyascha Bharata.
Kutakutjasta Bharata.
Thank you.
Okay.
Iti guhyatamam shastram
Iti guhyatamam shastram
idamuktam mayanaka
idamuktam mayanagha
etad buddha buddhiman syat
etad buddha buddhiman syat.
Kritakrityascha Bharata.
Kutakutjasta Bharata. All right, I'll do the word by words. Do you want to try? Okay. Sorry. Iti thus, Guhyatamam, the most confidential, Shastram, revealed scripture, idam, this, uktam, disclosed, maya, by me, anagha, O sinless one, etat, this, buddha, understanding, buddhiman, intelligent, syat, one becomes, kutakutyaha, the most perfect in his endeavors, cha, and, bharata, O son of Bharat. Translation, Krishna speaking to Arjuna. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So before I read the purport, I'm going to read the last translation, because he's referring back to it. Whoever knows me, says Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting, is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. Purport to text 20. The Lord clearly explains here that this is the substance of all revealed scriptures. And one should understand this as it is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus one will become intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge. In other words, by understanding this philosophy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engaging in his transcendental service, everyone can become freed from all contaminations of the modes of material nature. Devotional service is a process of spiritual understanding. Wherever devotional service exists, the material contamination cannot coexist. Devotional service to the Lord and the Lord Himself are one and the same because they are spiritual. Devotional service takes place within the internal energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is said to be the sun, and ignorance is called darkness. Where the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. Therefore, whenever devotional service is present under the proper guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, there is no question of ignorance. Everyone must take to this consciousness of Krishna and engage in devotional service to become intelligent and purified. Unless one comes to this position of understanding Krishna and engages in devotional service, however intelligent he may be in the estimation of some common man, he is not perfectly intelligent. The word anaga, by which Arjuna is addressed, is significant. Anaga, O sinless one, means that unless one is freed from all sinful reactions, it is very difficult to understand Krishna. One has to become free from all contamination, all sinful activities. Then he can understand. But devotional service is so pure and potent that once one is engaged in devotional service, he automatically comes to the stage of sinlessness. While one is performing devotional service in the association of pure devotees in full Krishna consciousness, there are certain things which require to be vanquished altogether. The most important thing one has to surmount is weakness of the heart. The first fall down is caused by the desire to lord it over material nature. Thus one gives up the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord. The second weakness of the heart is that as one increases the propensity to lord it over material nature, he becomes attached to matter and the possession of matter. The problems of material existence are due to these weaknesses of the heart. In this chapter, the first 5 verses describe the process of freeing oneself from these weaknesses of heart. And the rest of the chapter, from the 6th verse through the end, discusses Purushottam Yoga. Thus end the Bhagavatam purports to the 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Purushottam Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance to him and all members of Sri Parampara. So I think we'll have a little review of this chapter. It's quite a short chapter in a few minutes. So when Krishna says this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, he's referring to the previous verse. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engaged himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharat. Now this calls to mind, if you remember way back in the 10th chapter, text 8, 9, 10, and 11 are the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. They're said to be the 4 key verses. And Krishna says the same thing there. He says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam bhavartate. That I am the source. I am the source of everything. Everything emanates from me. Now it's interesting that he says it twice, one from his point of view, and one from our point of view. Because we don't know who the source of everything is, but we know the everything. We're a little familiar. Where did it all come from? Krishna says, and he begins, I am the source of everything. Everything emanates from me. Now what to do about that? Iti mat bhava jante mam buddha bhava samanvita. This is just what we're reading in these 2 verses, 19-20. One who knows this without doubting, right? Iti mat va, they worship me. Bhajante mam. Buddha, intelligent. Those who are intelligent understand this, believe it, and worship me with all their hearts. And then he goes on to explain how. Mat chitta, mat gata prana, bodhiyantak parasparam, katayantastamam nityam, tushyanti chadamanti cha. The first thing, we'll just take it off. We'll take the book off the seat. Just put it on the stand. Put it on the stand. Thanks. Mat chitta. This is like the essence of Krishna consciousness. That's what Krishna consciousness is. Mat chitta means to place your mind on me. They place their mind on me, thinking about me, in all kinds of ways. And we know that the easiest and best way in this age is chanting the holy name. The name of Krishna is not different from Krishna. So they think of me, and Madgata Prana, their life force is directed to me. They dedicate their lives to my service. bodhiyantak parasparam. And one of the things they do is they get together like this, and they talk about me. They glorify me. Bodhiyantak parasparam katayantas. Katayantas means kata. They glorify me according to the scripture. Always, regularly, nityam. And what's the result? Tushyanti chadamanti. In this way they feel satisfied and they enjoy spiritual pleasure. And for these devotees who are worshipping me in this way and who serve me with love, tesham satata yuktanam, who are always linked to me with their consciousness, their words, and all the other senses, tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam, who are worshipping me and serving me with love, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Now, how does he do that? He describes in this chapter. Sarvasya chahamriti sannivishto mataksmati jnanam apohanansha. He says in text 15, I am in everyone's heart as the super soul, and from me come knowledge and remembrance and also forgetfulness. If we want to forget Krishna, which we've been doing since time immemorial, he'll help us forget. But if we're fortunate enough to want to turn to him, he'll give us means by which to do it. He'll guide us, go here, do here, So that's a great blessing. And then he says, very movingly, Tesham eva nakamparta mahama jnana jam tamaha nashiyam yatma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. Out of my compassion for them, because don't forget, this is bhakti means an exchange of love. It's not just one way. That Krishna reciprocates exactly according to how we worship him, how we surrender to him. Anukamparta means out of my compassion for them. Ahama jnana jam tamaha. Ajnana jam tamaha, the darkness born of ignorance, which is in our heart since time immemorial. We've forgotten who we are, we've forgotten who God is, we've forgotten the relationship, we've absorbed into matter and trying to exploit it. Prabhupada describes in this purport. So we need to be enlightened. With the jnana deepa, with the lamp of knowledge. I destroy this ignorance, since that's been there for time immemorial, with the shining lamp of knowledge. This theme comes up again and again. Krishna from within is enlightening, and oftentimes he's guiding us how we can receive knowledge from outside, because it's very hard for us to access that all the time. We're so covered over. So he manifests these books, the teachers, the examples, very important. Srila Prabhupada, a perfect example, our whole parampara, so that we can be inspired and our faith can grow and our determination can grow. So here, in this chapter, I think we're ready for a review now. But the last two verses, one who knows me, who's not asamudha, who's without doubt, janati purushottamam, understands Krishna to be the supreme person. This is Purushottam Yoga, the title of the chapter in Sanskrit is Purushottam Yoga. Purusha Uttama, the supreme person. Sarva vid bhajati mam. Now this needs to be understood. He knows everything, and he worships me with all sarva bhava in all respects, exactly as he says in text 10.8. O scion of Bharat and descendant of Bharat. So knowing everything doesn't mean that we're omniscient like Krishna. No. There's a whole paper I wrote on this one time. I'll tell you about it sometime. But it means that everything that we need in order to serve Krishna and to revive our original relationship with Krishna is provided for us within the heart and also externally. Sarvavid bhajati mam, and he worships me with all his heart in all respects. So this is a great blessing to come to that consciousness. Now we're going to review this chapter. It's quite short, but very important, as they all are. So Krishna begins, if you recall, with the description of the upside-down banyan tree, the reverse banyan tree. Now, Sureshwar, where do we see such a tree? Do you remember? Yeah, where do we see a tree that has its roots up and its branches down? Is there such a thing in this material world? Where? No, we see a right side of banyan tree. There's actually a banyan tree there. Yeah, and on the bank of a calm pool or lake, where you can see the reflection. If there's a tree growing on the other side, there'll be a reflection in the water. So that the idea is this whole material world is simply a reflection. And Prabhupada, he coined that immortal phrase, perverted reflection or distorted reflection of the real tree which is in the spiritual world. For instance, relationships. I take my walk every day, you know. I go up doors, I come back on down indoors, and I immediately meet them. I encounter at least half a dozen people, and they've all got dogs. Sometimes more than one dog they're walking, you know. And it's so tragic, you know. They're carrying a little bag. I'm not going to say what's in the bag. They're serving the dog. They've developed attachment for the dog, you know, which is, we know that this can be very, very harmful. Ultimately, they can become the dog. The dog that that the leash is on used to be them, and they were in the dog body. Now they've exchanged. This is what people they become attached, you know. Maybe they don't have children or whatever, you know. And so there's so many places where people put their attachment, even if it's just a wholesome family where you're attached to the wife and the children. We just read in the morning classes. What is that? Pungsastviyam dhanibhavametang tayomato vidyagranthamahu. Rishabdev is condensing so much instruction. He says that the whole world is moving on this kama, this lust, this attraction between male and female, and human form. When that becomes tight, and then you get, you know, this is a civilized, you know, ordinary civilization. What to speak of what we have here. People get married, and they then need a place, and he needs a job in order to support it, or a field that you can, you know, farm, you know, somehow or other, some means of sustenance. And then children come, huge element of attachment. Right? Hare Krishna, welcome. And so now you have a place, you have children, you have a wife, and you have relatives, and so then you have a whole series of things that increase your sense of I and my, which is the essence of false ego. Hare Krishna, welcome. Now we can get some books for you. You can have this one, and you can have that one. And we are reviewing chapter 15, starting on page 591. We just finished the chapter. And so Krishna is describing this metaphorically as a huge tree with unlimited branches, the roots up. Now, who remembers what the actual root of this tree is? How did it grow? You remember what the root is? Desire. Desire. Everything moves by desire. Bhakti certainly moves by desire. You know, you read the Krishna book, you read the 10th canto, and everything. You know, Krishna desires to come to this world in order to revive. First of all, because the world had been overgrown with demonic forces. Krishna is very concerned that the human beings are able to follow Dharma, real Dharma. And when Dharma becomes distorted or eclipsed, then Krishna either comes himself, which is quite very rare, or he sends his emissary, or he makes sure that his books are there. Somehow or other, he tries to give people enlightenment so that they can follow Dharma, because without Dharma, human life is nothing but animal life. Hello, Frankie. Welcome. Frankie is a graduate. Yeah, you can sit on there. There's another chair if you need it. Okay. So Krishna comes. In other words, he cares. We don't know he cares. We forgot all about him. But he's always in the heart, and he's always, because we're his children. He says in the last chapter, beginning of the last chapter. So, here is, in this chapter, he describes this whole entanglement that is developed based on illusion, based on our desire to be independent of God, to be independent of Krishna. And so this whole world is provided so that we can attempt to do that and meet again and again with frustration. Just take one life. We're all living this lifetime now. And if whatever we're trying to do materially, you know, is certainly temporary. Whether you're trying to just survive, or whether you're you know, one of the rare people who can accumulate wealth, accumulate influence, and all these things. Whether you're a pauper on the street or you're some billionaire, it's all temporary. All your hopes and dreams, you know, are all bounded by these few years, a lifetime. And then what happens? Krishna says what happens. Mrityu sarvaharashchaham. That I, in the form of death, take everything away. Everything material. And what are we left with? Because we don't die. Nobody dies. Najayate mrite vakadachan. There's no birth, there's no death for the soul, who we really are. So what happens to us? What's our destiny? Well, we've made our destiny throughout our life. If we simply forgot about Krishna, forgot about these transcendental matters, and we're working what is called the modes of nature, which is explained in the last chapter, chapter 14, and then all of our hopes are frustrated. I'm near the end of my life now, so I can remember all of the endeavors, I mean most of my life, well, I can't say most of my life, but the first 24 years of my life, complete ignorance. I had no idea about this science. And I had so many hopes and aspirations, so many frustrations. This is ordinary life. And then, by great good fortune, by Prabhupada's mercy, I came in touch with this philosophy, and then my life changed. And so, but for the most part, people just spend their lives trying to survive and live in this world. They have so many relationships, and tragedies happen, broken relationships. The body is such a fragile vehicle. Disease comes eventually. It has to come. There's no getting around it. People live in such ignorance that somehow I'm going to build a place of safety and happiness in this world. It's all simply illusion. It's like a mirage. It's just like a mirage. You think it's there, you aspire, you try to get it, you come to get it, and where is it? What happened to it? It's gone. Time takes it. What's that prayer by Uddhava? Oh God, I use it. Dashtam janam sampatitam bilesmin kala hina chuddusukhodatasham samudhararam kripayabavargam vachobadasincha mahanubhava. I can't believe I remembered that verse. Once I get the first word, it sometimes comes. So Uddhava is a great devotee of Krishna. And many of these devotees, they have stand-ins for us. They're illustrating to us how we should approach the transcendental source of knowledge. So he's speaking in the 11th canto. There's another Gita. This is Bhagavad Gita. There's also the Uddhava Gita, in which Krishna deals with many of the same themes, but oftentimes in greater detail. So here, Uddhava is in the middle of the Uddhava Gita. He's praying to Krishna to keep speaking and keep enlightening me. So he's saying, Dashtam Janam. Dashtam means I'm bitten. He says, I'm bitten. This person has been bitten. What by? You'll learn in a minute. Sampatitam biles. I've fallen into this material world, which is like a snake hole, because there's this very powerful snake in the form of time. In fact, it's even called Kala Sarpa. A very poisonous snake is called Kala Sarpa. Kala means time. Dashtam sampatitam bilesman kalahina. Ahina is another word for sarpa. Sarpa is the same word as serpent. It's the same in English and Sanskrit. Kalahina chudra sugora tarsham. So he's painting a picture there. Even though I know, it's obvious, that time is threatening us, is gradually taking away our life, still we are cultivating and maintaining these desires for insignificant sense pleasure that's simply covering our knowledge and keeping us bound to this world, because the more that we engage in this sense gratification, the more we plant seeds of desire in our mind, and the mind doesn't die when the gross body dies. And all of those unfulfilled desires take us again to another material body. This is explained in this chapter also. So he said, Chudra sukhoru. Chudra sukha means insignificant material happiness, which is uru tarsham, a great thirst. So I'm in this well, threatened by this snake of time. It's gradually devouring me. And yet still I'm maintaining these desires that are going to keep me in the well. Not very smart. So the second half of the verse gives a solution. He says, Samudharainam, please lift me up out of this well, out of this hole, this snake hole, completely, so I don't have any chance of falling back in. How? By your mercy, by speaking your words. Words, please continue to instruct me, Uddhava is saying. Kripayapa varga vachobhi. Vachobhi means words, literally, which bring liberation. Ashin, sprinkle these nectarian words upon me. Ashinsha Mahanubhava, oh great soul, Krishna, great personality. It's a wonderful verse. So, the same personality is speaking in the Bhagavad Gita. So he teaches now this upside down banyan tree, and the the twigs are the objects of the senses, and you got the Vedas there, and our general tendency is to try to improve our situation from going from one branch to another, and not avoiding that part of the tree. And see, we always have hope, but there's no hope in this material world. The more that you're trying to negotiate the tree, the more you're entangled in the tree. You can't get out that way. You have to take that sword, the sword of detachment. So that's in the next verse, two verses. He continues to describe the tree and how you can't get out. There's also roots going down and branches going up. It's very entangling. And he says in text 3 and 4, the real form of this tree can't be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Asanga shastrena. Now this word sangha, it practically is one of the most important concepts in this whole process of devotion. Sangha means association, and it also means attachment. There's two meanings. Words often have many more than one meaning. And it's very logical, because what you associate with, then you become attached to it. And in fact, that's sangat sanjayate kama, we find in the second chapter. According to your associations, you develop your desires, right? I always give this the illustration. We're sitting here 20 feet down, or maybe 20 yards down. At the end of the block, we have a wonderful bar. I think they sell pizza, they sell beer, and they sell mixed, a little different mood, right, than we have here. So everyone's free. You can, if you come here, you can come into the temple, or you can keep walking into the bar. But you get a different experience from each one. The bar keeps you covered, right? Even more, mode of ignorance. Okay, let's have a pizza and a beer. But if you come here, you get some instruction on how you can get out of this entangling mess of the material world, with the metaphor here of this banyan tree, and do what? Get free of all the miseries, which we often count and recount, right? We get the birth, old age, disease, and death. Those are always with us, threatening. And then you have, when those aren't immediately available, you have the threefold miseries, the adhyatmik, adhibautik, and indaivik. This is just technical words for things we all know completely. Adhyatmik, your body and mind is giving you trouble. You're sitting in San Diego, everyone's aspiring to move there, the weather is perfect, and you're sitting there, it's not raining, it's perfect weather, But, you've got this neurosis, or, someone insulted you, or you're depressed, or something, Or you've got some chronic disease, the body and mind are giving us. That's adhyatmik. Adhibautik, you're healthy as anything, but you have so many enemies who hate you for some reason or other. And you have to be on watch out, or you can't stand your boss, Adhibautik. Prabhupada gives the example of bed bugs. I don't know if you ever experienced that. But that can be one of the, most unpleasant experiences. Other living entities. And then if those are like, well, okay, we don't have that. Adhidaivik, coming more and more because we've changed the climate, they're not mutually exclusive. Other human beings who are just putting out all these gases and, carbon, I'm trying to, run my hybrid, here, trying to conserve. But everyone else down the street, they're just blowing off this greenhouse gases. And the result is the fires on this side, the floods over here, the drought right here where we're sitting practically. Everything's ready to dry up. So that's another kind of misery. One or more of those is you're either suffering from, or there's threatening. The threatening itself is a kind of misery. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Is there going to be a drought? What about the earthquake? You can have such a neurosis. When I first came here, I came from Miami. So Miami, hurricanes. The hurricane season comes, everyone's watching that that weather report. And now they're much worse, they're stronger, because the oceans are heating up. So I came out here, said no more hurricanes. That's cool, but whoa, the San Andreas Fault. Where does it fall? Is it, So we tend to forget them until, and then all of a sudden they come on top of you. So that's material life. Everybody in the world is either suffering these or threatened to be suffering by it, and dying, being born, is all. So we can get out of the whole thing. The whole point, we don't belong here. We're in an alien world. We can't be happy here. We're naturally Satchidananda. We're full of bliss, full of knowledge, and eternal, and compare that to our present life. What is it probably? Asat, Achit, and Nirananda. Certainly Asat, we're not eternal in this body, everyone knows. Achit, not so intelligent. There's so many things we don't know. Nirananda, we're not fully in bliss all the time. I think we can all agree about that. So to move from this state to our real state, to revive, go back home, back to Godhead, that's the mission of human life. Who knew that? I had no idea. From Prabhupada's teachings, his hard effort to teach us and spread these books around all over the world, the knowledge is available. All over the internet. If you hit the right buttons, you can hear kirtan, classes, everything. So that needs to develop the desire to get out, and then develop this asanga, detachment. And that really develops through becoming attached to Krishna. And when it gets a little detachment, you search out that person from whom everything has come, and you surrender. It's all in this one verse. Now, how to do that is in the next verse. Nirmana mohajita sangadosha. There's a verse here describing the process of surrender. And then, if you complete the course, you go back to Godhead, and he has a verse describing the spiritual world here. Natad bhasyate suryo. It's just a teaser. We want more, and there's a lot more in our literature. It's self-effulgent. We have the sun. We have but this planet is self-effulgent. You can live there. There's no need of moon. There's no need of sun. Once you go, you don't have to come back. Anywhere where you go, you have to eventually leave in this world, because you have to leave the body. The body is your real apartment. Don't we want to eventually get evicted? Isn't it? Yeah. You don't want to leave, but you have to leave. But here, you don't have to go. Yad gatvana navartante. Once going there, you never have to come back, because that's eternal. It's purely spiritual. Spirit is eternal. Matter is temporary. It's called sat and asat. We want to go from the asat to the sat. Asato ma sadgamaya. The famous phrase really means, "Oh Lord, please take me from the temporary to the eternal, from mrityum va amritam gamaya. Lead me from death to immortality. Lead me from tamasi, from darkness, to light." This is the Vedic call. I learned that even before I heard about Hare Krishna. So he says, okay, then we go back to Godhead. And then he says, well, who are we? Mamai vangsho jiva loke. This is such an important verse. In this world, jiva loke, every living entity, and that includes not just human beings, is my part and parcel. Anksha. We have Krishna's qualities in minute degree. Just like the drop of water in the ocean is also salty, and the ray of sun has light and a little bit of heat. So we have Krishna's qualities in minute quantity. Manakshashtan indriyani. We are struggling with the senses and the mind. We're in this body which is not natural to us, but we identify with it. And the senses are pulling us this way, the mind is telling us to do that, and so forth. We're kind of trapped in here. Prakritistani, within this, struggling within material nature. And the living entity in this material world, this text 8, carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. It's such a radical idea. No one knows this. Mostly in outside of India, and even in India, they may know it, but do they live it anymore? He knows, he's from India. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So it's our consciousness that we develop in every lifetime that determines our next lifetime, our next body. So we need to know how to develop that consciousness by which we can get the best body. And the best body is not even a material body. We're not desiring to go to some material heaven and enjoy, heavenly delights there for millions of years, because it still comes to an end. We need to shoot not for the moon, but for the spiritual world. And so that comes in the rest of the chapter. The foolish can't understand how a living entity quits his body, nor can understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of modes of nature. It's just not taught, this idea of transmigration of the soul, because it changes everything. Once you realize that you're not going to die, and you've lived before, then your whole perspective on this lifetime changes. You realize this is one short chapter in a very long book. So I need to know how I can start to control the plot of the book. Not that I'm just going to be victimized and be pushed around from one to another. And don't forget, human life is very rare. We're very fortunate. We need to learn how to use this facility, this special brain, this intelligence, so that we can end this imprisonment. Durga means imprisonment in the material world. We are spirit. We're encased in a body of matter. We want to again be reinstated in our fully spiritual body in the spiritual world. That's the mission in a nutshell. So he goes on and describes how this process of transmigration works. And it's not everyone can see this, that's clear. Then he describes himself as how he's maintaining everything in creative thing, text 12. Everything is emanating from me. I enter into the planets, hold them up. I produce the moon, which then nourishes the vegetables. Even the fire of digestion is coming from me. And then the key verse, text 15. Sarvasya chaham mridisannabhishto. I am within everyone's heart as the super soul. From me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So if we want to know Krishna, he will give us more and more inspiration on how to search out those places where we can learn more about him. And even from within, he'll be guiding us. If we want to forget him, he'll help us to forget. Apohanamcha. Now, Vedas Sarva Aham, from all the Vedas, which are very vast, you've got the 4 Vedas, the Yajur Veda, the Atharva Veda, the Rig Veda, and you've got the Upanishads. From all of them, the ultimate lesson is to know Krishna, to know God. Vedas Ahameva Vejo. I wrote the Vedanta, which is the essence of all knowledge, and I am the knower of the Veda. Prabhupada would often quote this verse. And then the last 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, the last 5 verses, he talks about the 2 kinds of persons. Those in the material world, we've lost our place in the spiritual world temporarily, but for us it can be millions of years, but it's not forever. And we've fallen, if we were called fallible. We've fallen from our original position. But there are many others, like us, living entities, who are still in the spiritual world. They've never come here. They're called infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. The spiritual world, everyone is infallible. And then besides these 2 categories, there's the greatest living personality. Krishna is speaking in the 3rd person here again. The Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord himself, who has entered the 3 worlds and is maintaining them. So that's the Uttama Purusha, the Supreme Person. That's the whole yoga of the Supreme Person. That's the title of the chapter. And now Krishna reveals in the last 18, 19, 20, the last 3 verses, that I am that transcendental person. And I'm celebrated as the Supreme Person, Uttama Purusha, or Purushottama. And then what we read in, last time in the night. Whoever knows me, says Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharat. So that's the conclusion of the whole Bhagavad Gita, and in many chapters we find the same thing, is that if we have some faith, and enough faith to either at least try the process, chanting the holy name, and reading the books, trying to lead the lifestyle, then Krishna will help us from within to have progressive realizations depending on our sincerity and our determination. And
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol, just 1 second.
Okay.
And so the result here, this is only 20 verses, Guyatamam Shastram. This is the most confidential lesson of the Shastra, the scripture. What is that? The previous verse. To know Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting, and therefore to engage ourselves in his full devotional service under the guidance of a realized soul. Go ahead, Dhanavari, then I have a little special.
Hare Krishna.
All right, Dhanavari was first, then you, Bijay.
Thank you very much. I can wait, no problem.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So you mentioned that verse, Satomam Sadgamai, Tamasomam Jyotigamai, and then
Yes.
Mrutyomam Amrutagamai. So my question is, I've always thought that Amrutagamai, like immortality you said, but for us, like we should, like in Krishna consciousness, immortality is not good. I mean, right? So we shouldn't. Should we pray for it? Like Amrutagamaya means immortality. Is that right understanding, or what do you?
It's not that immortality isn't good. I don't know where you get that idea.
Okay,
We're already immortal. You're never going to be mortal. So that we already have immortality, but we don't know it. We're living as if we're this body, and so we feel ourselves to be mortal. It's a huge dream. It's a huge illusion. We are not these bodies, therefore we are not mortal. But because we identify with them in the ordinary sense, we feel that we're mortal, certainly. So the idea is that lead me to this experience from this experience of birth and death and mortality to my actual state of immortality. That's what the Sat is in Sat Chit Ananda. Our bodies are eternal, just like Krishna's, but our original spiritual bodies. That's the definition of mukti given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Mukti hitpanyata rupam swarupena vyavastati. Real mukti, which means coming back to our eternal state, means giving up our misconception of all of these bodies we've been dwelling in, including the present one, as ourselves, and being situated in our actual swarup. Swarup means your actual form, which we are not aware of now, but we can learn what it is by the process of devotional service. You understand? That's what the meaning is, take me from death to immortality. And
yes, Prabhu, thank you so much for clarifying. Thank you.
Okay,
Hare Krishna.
and quick, Vijay, because I have a special announcement I want to make.
Yes, I do not mind if you give me a short answer. Prabhu, the quote from the translation related to the text you chose for today is, quote, "This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures," end quote. So my question is, why is it that in the Vedic scriptures we find most confidential parts and less confidential parts?
Well, the idea is that we need to be brought. The confidential parts are often beyond our ability to understand, even on a rudimentary level. We would say that, well, okay, we have the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. That's really confidential. Here's Krishna saying this is the most confidential part. So for the masses of people, it's very confidential. It's very completely unknown, as it were, that God is Krishna, that wonderful, all-attractive boy who's complete in beauty, who's got the flute playing on the. That's very confidential. So Krishna is describing this is the secret of all secrets. You want to find out what the real truth is? This is it. From the previous verse. I am the source of all spiritual material worlds, and one who knows that Purushottama, that I am Supreme Person, then he knows everything worth knowing and worships me with all his heart. That's the next thing. If you don't act on the knowledge, you don't really know it. There's Gyan and Vigyan. You have to come to the point of Vigyan, of realized knowledge, which means acting on it. Listen, I'm going to have to cut a little short because I want to present something. Is that okay? We can.
Better than okay. Again, spectacular answer to my question. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Now I have something in this backpack that many of you are familiar with, but some may not be so familiar with. Special books. These books are Vyasa Puja books that I work very hard on producing every year. They have been printed. It's likely that these hardback versions won't be printed again. It's simply the way ISKCON has evolved. But this one is from 1999 and one is from 2001. These, some of you may be fairly new, you've seen them. These Vyasa Puja is the day in which the anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's appearance in the world. Very important day. We worship every day. It's right after Janmashtami by Krishna's arrangement. And this book contains offerings or homages written by some of his leaders, the GBC, most of the GBC. Radhanath Swami has written this one. Bhakti Charu Swami wrote every year. He suddenly passed away last year from COVID. And there's only 500 printed every year. They are collector's items. This is from 2001. This is from 1999. So I'm offering these for a very, very reasonable price, $0. And each one will have an inscription, which I made already, Hare Krishna, and put your name there. Krishna Matir Astu. May you always remember Krishna. Dravida Das, Vyasa Puja book editor. I'll put the date on there and I'll put your name. And you can just hold on to this. The reason why we're giving them away, because nobody wanted to buy them. And after the year, it's very rare that they'll be. And so they were just gathering dust and they were thinking of discarding them. But I couldn't bear the thought, so I took them all. I have more at home. So since it's so if anyone would like to take them, you just put them in and you could read them and treasure them and just collect them, because there's only 500 printed. And they can do nothing but increase in value. You're going to make thousands of % on your investment. So they're looking for a home. And since several of you are, no one in the temple is allowed to have them, because they've already they don't have bookshelves or anything. So if you're interested, after the artik, I'll be here, and I'll very nicely dedicate to you. So, anyway.
Dravida Prabhu, if I send you my address, would you send it to Portugal?
You have to send me a stamped, self-addressed envelope, and I'll put it in there. If you're really interested, we'll figure out a way we can get them to you. Okay?
Okay, Prabhu.
I have many. You can take more than one. Okay.
Thank you very much.
So, okay, it's about time to have the article. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. And this will be a regular offering.